Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, February 16th. There's about 350 albums total coming out this week. I got 12 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlists I put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's about 350 albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 12 on the show today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comment section for them. First album is from a band that I think has really kind of flown under the radar the last few years. This is the new album from Blackberry Smoke, Be Right Here. It's their 8th studio album. It's going to run you about $24 online. There's a standard black version of this, and then there's also an indie exclusive version. The indie exclusive is on Golden Birdwing, which I've got no clue what kind of color it is. I'm assuming some kind of gold color. Unfamiliar with Blackberry Smoke, a great new-ish kind of band. I think their first album came out in like 2003, which I know isn't that new, but their second album was like 2008 or 2009, so it's a pretty big gap between the first couple of albums. I've loved everything I've heard from this band. I don't think they've made a bad album so far. This one was produced by Dave Cobb, who did both of the Rival Sons albums last year, which were both great. I'm expecting this one to be just as good as those Rival Sons albums. They're southern rock mixed in with some blues, a little bit alternative. Like I said, if you're unfamiliar with them, definitely go back and check them out. They're one of those bands where people talk about rock music being dead. I always point them to bands like this, bands like Rival Sons that are doing some really great stuff. It's still, it's newer. It's got a new kind of flair to it, but it's still kind of reminiscent of a lot of those older, great rock bands that from the past. And then you've also got this 40th anniversary edition of Show No Mercy by Slayer coming out this week. First released back in 1983. It was their debut album. It's currently about $66 online. It's on gold and black splatter vinyl. Slayer was one of those first bands, man. They kind of really broke on the scene in the early part of the 80s. They took like metal, mixed it with punk, helped form that really heavy thrash metal through the beginning part of the decade. I've always looked at them as kind of like the one of the founding members of thrash. I'm not a big Slayer fan. This is probably the only album of theirs that I really enjoy from beginning to end. But this comes with a slip mat. It's got a poster. It's got photo cards in there. It's got show flyers. There's also this really cool, there was only 250 copies that were pressed. Really cool blood-filled copy of this album. It's sold out super quick. I'm sure it probably goes for thousands of dollars online now. But, it's if you're a Slayer fan, if you're a thrash fan, that's a good one to look at this week. You also got the new album from Idols coming out this week. This is Tangk, even though it doesn't look like Tank. That's how it's pronounced. I know it's got a G in there. There's a whole story behind it. You can go online and check out the story. But this is their 5th studio album. It's going to run you about $23 online. There's a black version of this, and then there's also indie exclusive. The indie exclusive is on Translucent Pink. If you're unfamiliar with Idols, they're an English band. They take like indie rock with some like alternative, a little bit of pop, a little bit of punk. I really enjoy the stuff I've heard from them. I haven't listened to a whole lot of their stuff, maybe 6 or 8 different songs from across their career I've listened to. I'll definitely stream this one and check it out this week. This is the follow-up to their 2021 album, Crawler, which got really good reviews. Like I said, I'm sure this is going to be another good album that I'll add to my stream list this week. And then you've also got the new album from Jennifer Lopez, This Is Me Now, coming out. This is her 9th studio album. It's on evergreen vinyl. It's going to be about $28 online. This is the first album of hers since 2014, when she released AKA, which I thought was her last album. I was really surprised to even see that she was announcing a new album. I thought she'd kind of retire from music altogether. So with This Is Me Now, this is actually kind of a follow-up to her 2002 album, This Is Me Then, which I didn't even know there was a connection between those two albums. But anyway, the new album, largely inspired by her kind of rekindling her relationship with Ben Affleck, their marriage, and this kind of like whole romance thing that they went through, kind of is interwoven through this new album. I'm not a huge Jennifer Lopez fan. It's definitely one. It's like with the Idols album. I definitely stream it and check it out this week. And before I move on to the next album, I guess I should add for the Jennifer Lopez release, they did this whole musical film that goes along with this movie. And this is something I've seen more bands do over the last few years. This one's going to be exclusive to Amazon Prime. So if you're a Jennifer Lopez fan, if you enjoy this album, make sure you go on Amazon and check that out also. Also got the reissue of Fumbling Towards Ecstasy by Sarah McLachlan coming out this week. This was released back in 1993. It was her third studio album. It's going to be about $24 online. I've long considered this album and Tuesday Night Music Club by Sheryl Crow as two big watershed albums, or in the early part of the 90s. Really pushed labels to find that next big female singer-songwriter, and you saw a lot of them come out over the next couple of years. And I think it's mainly because of the success of those two albums. It would hit number 50 on the Billboard 200. It would sell over 3 million copies here in the U.S. Just a really good album from beginning to end. I don't think there's a bad track on that one. Definitely looking forward to grabbing a copy of that this week. And then you've also got The Dreaming by Kate Bush coming out. This was released back in 1982 as her fourth studio album. It's running about $45 online. This is the Escapologist version. Different artwork on the outside, so album cover. I think there's different artwork on the inner sleeve also. It's kind of still keeps up with that same kind of feel that the album had. So with this album, this was the first album of Kate Bush's that she produced on her own, and it ended up being a lot more experimental because of that. And I think it's a good album. I'm not the biggest Kate Bush fan. It's one I haven't listened to in a long time, so I definitely need to put on my list to stream and check out this week, because it's probably been at least 20 years since I've listened to it. Couple of great looking jazz releases coming out this week. Both of them are part of the Blue Note Classic series, which I've discovered so many great jazz albums over the last few years because of this and the Toe Poet series both. But the first one, this is Lee Morgan, Search for a New Land. I will say Lee Morgan's quickly becoming one of my favorite jazz musicians over the last probably like 6 months. I've started picking up more and more of his albums. And this is a really good one. I do really recommend this one. So this was released in 1966. It was recorded in 64. I don't know why there was a 2-year gap in between the two. Of course, like with everything with the Blue Note series, both of the Tone Poet series and the Classic series, it's all mastered by Kevin Gray from the original analog tapes. It's pressed it to optimal. They always sound fantastic, and this would be a great one to grab also. As I kind of start digging into Lee's career, I think this is probably definitely up there as one of his best albums. He's got a great ensemble cast on this one, though. You got Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Grant Green, Reggie Workman, Billy Higgins on this one. Kind of a who's who of that period in jazz music. And a lot of those guys were like earlier in their career also. So it was really kind of cool to go through and listen to this one. Absolutely love that. There's a 16-minute title track on here. It's an absolute banger. It's probably one of my favorite jazz songs of the 60s. Like I said, really great one to go back through and check out if you're unfamiliar with that album. And then you got Joe Henderson, Mode for Joe, coming out. This was also released back in 66. This was his last recording with Blue Note for almost 20 years. I want to say there was I think it was a couple of live albums he recorded in the 80s for Blue Note. So it was kind of a long gap in between releasing albums through Blue Note. He had a big ensemble cast on this one, a lot larger than Joe really ever used in his career. But you got Lee Morgan on here, you got Curtis Fuller, Bobby Hutcherson, Cedar Walton, Ron Carter, and Joe Chambers. Same thing with the last one. It's all mastered by Kevin Gray, pressed at optimal. These things sound absolutely fantastic. One album coming out this week that I know a lot of people have been looking for. It might be kind of flying under the radar if you're not a early 2000s punk fan. But this is Mest, Destination Unknown. This was released back in 2001. It was their third studio album. It's going about $29 online. There's multiple versions of this. There's a standard black version, and then this is pressed through Smart Punk. So if you go on Smart Punk's website, there's a bunch I think there's 3 or 4 different color variants of this album. If you're unfamiliar with Mest, they're a Chicago-based punk rock band. Had some moderate success in their early to mid part of the 2000s. This is a really good album. I don't think so. This wasn't their highest charting album. I think the album they came out after this one charted a little bit better. But I think this is probably their best album. If you're unfamiliar with Mest, I think this is probably the really good album to start with if you want to check them out. And then you've also got Run DMC, Down with the King, coming out. This was released in 1993. It was their 6th studio album. 2 LP release. It's going to be on white vinyl. It's going to run about $40 online. So when they released their, what was it? It was Back from Hell was the album they released in 1990. I was not a fan of it. I was probably, how old was I in 1990? I think I was like 11 years old when that album came out. And I'd really started getting into rap music in like 87 or 88. But I loved Run DMC. They were probably my favorite rap artists at that time. And when that album dropped in 1990, it was a huge letdown. I really kind of thought Run DMC had lost it. Obviously, rap was really changing by then. They really didn't change or evolve with the times. And then when this album came out, I think Run DMC did a great job of kind of blending what Run DMC is really known for into where rap was in 1993. So it's a good album. If you're unfamiliar with it, I probably won't pick it up this week. I haven't listened to it in probably 15 years. So it's really worth going out and checking through and checking the album out, especially if you're unfamiliar with like the late 80s to early 90s period from Run DMC. It's a good one to check out, I think. Another really interesting release coming out this week that I've actually almost picked up a couple of times. I probably will grab a copy of it this week. This is Jim Croce, Lost Time in a Bottle. This was released back in 2014. So this is a compilation of just a bunch of rare demo tracks from Jim, some live material. Is actually this is a 2 LP release. It's going to run you like $35 online, and I think the whole second LP is a unreleased live concert from '64. Of course, Jim had a really tragically short career, died in a plane crash in '73, and was really at the peak of his career. I think he had just released Bad Bad Leroy Brown and was like just hitting on all cylinders, in his music career. Of course, that got cut short. So this is really kind of a cool way to go back through Jim's career. It's got all of his biggest tracks on here. Like, so a lot of these are rare demos, stuff you haven't heard in a long time, or really kind of haven't been on really big popular releases, like a big greatest hits compilation or anything like that. And plus, going back through and checking out that live show, which until 2014, when this was released first time, had never been released to the public. Cool thing to kind of go through if you're a Jim Croce fan. And then the last one on the list is the self-titled debut album from Skid Row, released back in 1989. This is going to run you like about $38 online. It's a limited edition release from Friday Music. Not really sure how limited it is, but to be completely honest, this album, people complain about how many times The Dark Side of the Moon has been repressed over the last several years, including me. This album here, I think in the last 3 years, I think this is the 4th time that this album has been reissued. So if you don't have a copy of it in your collection, I'm really surprised if you're a fan of this album that you don't already own it. But anyway, this is it was huge when it was released. It hit number 6 in the Billboard 200. It's going on to sell over 5 million copies in the U.S. This has a lot of I think this has the best songs from Skid Row on there, but I think Slave to the Grind is a little bit better of an album overall. It's a little more of a complete album than their debut is, but I do really enjoy this copy. I mean, this album, I do already have a copy of it, so I'll pass on this one this week. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. There's a lot of good stuff coming out this week. I'm definitely going to grab that Blackberry Smoke. I'll stream that new Idols album. I'll stream that new Jennifer Lopez album, even though I'm not a huge fan of her stuff. But definitely grab that Sarah McLachlan. Definitely grab that Lee Morgan. I'll definitely grab that Mest album. A couple other ones I got on my maybe list. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.